Growing up in a small town in Odisha, India, people often bullied and mocked him. Anwesh came out as gay to his sister and family when he was 16 years old. Like any other Indian household, it was not easy to accept him or his identity. Today he stands tall after overcoming all these battles and the one that he is still fighting. He completed his engineering and is a graduate from NIFT. Anwesh is an Indian artist, blogger, writer, model, designer, and a TEDx speaker. He was crowned Mr. Gay World India 2016, becoming the youngest winner of the crown at age 20. He is the first Indian recipient of the Troy Perry Award for his compassionate activism. His campaign, Fitting Out, gained widespread acclaim that year, garnering the highest marks at the World pageant. The Effeminare is a safe space where he showcases his work and designs. Anwesh is here to share his inspiring story and inspire you at the same time. Hi Anwesh, how are you doing?
I'm feeling gorgeous. In case you can't see it already, I'm doing well. I'm really happy to be here to be having this conversation with the one and the only Asmin.
Oh my god,
And
wow. Thank you
I'm
so
really
much.
I'm really happy to be having this conversation while I'm having my pakoda and chai. Because
And
what better way to have a
it
conversation?
should be raining, right? Like chai, pakoda, and the
Totally.
rain. It should be
And the
raining.
rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect setting.
And where are you calling from, Asmin, by the way?
I'm
All the way from
from
Bombay?
Mumbai. Do you know like where? I don't
Of
know. Should
course,
I
I
give
know
you?
Bombay. I used to
No,
work
but
in
like,
Bombay.
oh, where?
I have worked everywhere in Bombay. I worked in Vikhroli. I worked in Andheri. I
Okay.
worked in Kamla Mills. I
Okay.
mean, I used to work with HDFC, which is which they have their office in Kamla Mills.
Okay.
Now
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
moved out of HDFC. I've moved to another company. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I've been in Lower Parel. I've been in Bandra. I've been in Pali
Okay.
Hills. I've been all over the place.
So,
कोलाबा से लेके नवी मुंबई तक, which is not considered Bombay, but yeah.
wow. Wow, you've like covered the entire patch. Okay, so I am near Chowpatty side. If you're
अच्छा.
aware. Yeah, like so
हाँ.
there's a Parsi colony. I stay over there.
Oh, lovely, yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
How
So
cool. Then we have to meet when I'm in Bombay because I anyway come to Bombay every year in the
the,
month of January for Mystic India.
in the
So
year of Jan, only Jan, like
in the month of
that's
Jan.
okay. Done
So
then.
specifically in the month of Jan, I come anyway because Mystic India's finale happens there, and I'm also a part of the Mystic India organization. And but other than that, I of course keep coming back and forth because there's a lot. I keep doing a lot of modeling gigs here and there in
Right.
Bombay. But I mean, sometimes for work, of course, I was working full time in Bombay for a while,
Right.
and now I've moved back home in Haryana in my little rainbow little world in my pink little room with all my goodies and my art around me. So I'm in my little comfortable space right now, having banana
Lovely.
time.
But whenever you come, we have to meet. Done. I'm gonna
Of course, without a
done.
question, without a doubt.
Okay, so just I wanted to know. So a usual question that's asked is when you came out, how did your parents react or how did your friends react? But I want to know what was going on in your mind when you first came to terms with it, because
Yeah.
I am aware that you grew up in a generation that didn't have social media. There was
What
no
are you saying,
awareness.
Asmin? Asmin, I was like, I was, I was 25 years ago.
Yeah,
5 years ago, and so the social media existed like 10 years ago. Asmin
Instagram
is thinking I'm
existed.
like some.
No.
Oh God, Asmin.
Instagram existed. I'm
Asmin,
Googling it right now. Did Instagram exist?
Instagram started in 2010, and I was 15 in 2010.
Okay.
Asmin is already like, Asmin is judging me full scale. She thought I'm like, I don't know, some 50-year-old man.
No.
There was no social media.
I
Oh
actually,
God.
because I joined social media when I was like 16 or 17. I didn't even means I knew
How
about.
old are you now, if I may ask?
I'm 18. So
Oh yeah,
two.
you're 18 right now. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So social media has been there since 2000s. It used to be Orkut back in those days, way back in early 2000s. And then there were
What?
Yahoo chat
Yeah,
rooms. And
yeah.
then there used to be, of course, Orkut, which was quite big in India
Mm-hmm.
at least. There was MySpace, which was rather big in America
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps in the West. And then, I mean, we all joined Facebook in 2009, I think I still remember. And Facebook was rather becoming a rather big
Right.
thing. I think Facebook started out in 2006 when I was in class 6. So I was, I think, 11 years old when Facebook started. And I have been on Facebook since 2009. So like good 11 years now, 11, 12 years.
But my
Azmin
question
is
is,
like, social media तो नहीं था तब क्या करना हमने literally
I'm
I
so
literally found
sorry.
like
but but
oh god,
listen,
go on,
okay.
go on.
But my point is, okay, it existed. But was there this stop. But was there this level of awareness? Did people even talk about this? Like how it is
Azmin, this is
now?
becoming my podcast now. I should. I'm taking Azmin's case now. I'm so sorry, Azmin. पर कौन गले पड़ गया आपके आप ही के पॉडकास्ट पे आप ही के केस ले रहा है नहीं ऐसी बात नहीं है but I will come to your question. So sorry.
It's okay. That was a nice detour and a reality check for me. Because to be honest, I knew Facebook existed, but I see how Facebook has now evolved into like ads and where people can literally earn from social media, even Instagram. And like now, if you compare Instagram's level of awareness with what they are sharing and what content goes up there compared to 10, 15 years ago, I really don't think so that kind of awareness was there. Like when you
So
logged
way
into
back,
Facebook, huh? Sorry, go ahead.
this is going to be a very educational session for Azmin. I'm just going to, unravel the reality of the situation to Azmin. Oh my God, this
Feeling
is so
so
funny.
bad right now.
Not at all. So way back in 2009, which was the first time I, discovered Facebook. Of course, Facebook had been there for quite some time. I think 3 years since then. And back in those days, we used to have dial-up connections, and we were sort of shifting towards Wi-Fi connections. I remember still. So we used to have like a telephone cable that used to connect, our computers to the internet. And yeah, through on Facebook, we used to have secret groups way back in those days. And Facebook was a rather bigger phenomenon, and Instagram was sort of starting out because Instagram came in 2010 when I was 15 years old, and I joined Instagram rather early. So I think around 2013, 14, it was becoming a bigger phenomenon everywhere, and a lot of my friends were on Instagram. And I mean, it was not a big phenomenon here in India overall because I think internet has become big in India only in the last 2 3 years.
Right.
But I mean, we still had internet. At least a certain privileged mass still had access to some kind of internet. And even in schools, I mean, we had access to internet or Google or Facebook or all of that stuff. So I remember being part of a lot of secret groups on Facebook, and Section 377 wasn't read down. So there was a lot of conversation that used to still happen. In fact, when I came out, coming back to your question about coming out, I actually found one of my sister's friend who happened to be gay and who was out and about on Facebook, and he used to share a lot of his stories there. And I was like, this is so nice. I mean, I finally have some point of reference where I can see all of these gay folks from the community. There were mostly like a lot of gay men that I came across. There wasn't enough, I think, in terms of representation, and there wasn't
Mm.
also much discussion around being trans or being non-binary,
Right.
but a lot of representation or questions were around being gay. So I found a lot of gay men on these secret groups, and I would just go on their profiles and just look at what they're doing and what they're sharing, and that sort of in some ways did become a point of reference for me here in India. And I used to share about my life even like on Instagram, even way back in 2014 through my artworks. Of course, now my artworks are very much around being queer in
Right.
India and all these non-binary identities. But back then it was just me sharing my artworks in general and whatever excuse me, whatever I connected with. So, even back then, I remember I used to talk about the effeminate woman, which was basically, she was a trans woman, and she just shared her stories of how she was sort of going around and meeting these important celebrities and dressing up in a certain manner. So I remember, sort of taking these inspiration from Masaba's outfits and all her the kind of interesting dresses that she used to come up with. I would take that as a reference point, and then I would create these outfits for my characters. So yeah, I had sort of created like a parallel universe. I used to blog a lot more back then.
Right.
Right now, of course, vlogging has become a way bigger thing, but so I started out with a WordPress blog,
Hmm.
and I used to talk about the feminine there, and you know again, to answer your question, it was not easy at all to coming out to myself, or becoming more comfortable with my identity as a gay man. But I've become used to it. Over the years, I've understood more of myself over the years as well. I was very ashamed, in fact, when I came out to myself. I was like, I don't want to be gay. I don't want to be this. This doesn't seem right. I don't feel this is abnormal. And it was very difficult to sort of come to terms with my gay self.
Right.
But I think a lot of my references were also from American television shows, and or shows from around the world, where we
Hmm.
there was a lot of queer representation. And I would be like, if they could come out way back in those days, excuse me. So if they could come out back in those days and talk about their stories out in the open, then maybe there is hope for me as well, and I sure
Right.
can come out in the open and share my story with the world.
So you first shared it on social media, or did you approach someone? Like, did you go to someone and tell them?
So I actually did share about my coming out experience through a blog called I think it was a blog post regarding what I wear is your business. Yeah, it was something on the same lines. It was actually called Why What I Wear Is Your Business.
Ooh,
So it was
okay.
actually inspired of a similar title by of an article which was written by Nishit Saran. My sexuality is your business. I think something of
Mm-hmm.
that sort he had written way back in the early 2000s. And I had written this article, why what I wear is your business. And it was around, me being interested in, dressing up in a certain kind or not, or how there have been men who've dressed up in,
Right.
skirts, or there have been men who've
Mm.
dressed up in, corsets or heels or shoes, all of these different kinds of, clothes that are usually considered feminine, or
Mm-hmm.
not considered masculine enough. So spoke about that because I felt like there was a lot of backlash to what I wanted to wear. I would sort of, for example, want to wear like a skinny jeans, and my parents would be very uncomfortable with it. Even just with a pair of skinny jeans, they'd be like,
Right.
oh, this is too curly, this is not nice.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually the first time I wrote about it, and wrote about my queer experience. This was, I think, in 2013, and the blog post actually did really well in my circle. A lot
Wow.
of my friends shared it. A lot of my friends commented on it, and they
Hmm.
really came out in the open and supported my stance. And I'm just so grateful that they were so sweet to
Right.
me way back in those days. But I first came out, in 2012, so just a year before I had come out to myself. Then came out to my sister. I wasn't very happy about it, but she was very supportive. So I was just like, maybe I have some support. It's okay. So I
Support.
can
Yeah.
continue on this. Yeah, I can continue on this journey. Then I came out to my friends. They were very uncomfortable with that idea of me being gay. They didn't think it was right. Then I eventually came out to my teachers. One of my teachers, actually, not all of them, just one of my teachers. And I think it just, snowballed from there on. I didn't
Right.
I didn't look back from there on.
That's great. But at any point of time, do you think that a kid who maybe comes out to their parent today has it easier than you had it when you came out? Because of the fact that now people are changing their perspectives towards this. So, do you think society is being more open or no?
Um, I do think that a lot has changed since, for sure. Mm, I think it also can be seen through Instagram, for example. Um, we have so many like queer accounts, by queer folks in India. So you have a lot of conversation happening around contextual queerness, which is extremely important. We can't just talk about being queer just looking at American idols, or you know points of references from the West, because in some way or the other our stories are unique. Of course, we are connected in some ways as well,
Right.
and our stories are going to be similar, but the struggles in some way or the other are going to be a little different. So it's very, very important to talk about basic queerness. So we have, accounts like today where, you have like a basic queer memes where we just
Mm-hmm.
celebrate queerness, or where we have like a yes, we exist, or we have a gay sea, or we have a galaxy. All of these
Right.
incredible, spaces where we finally get to be, in a space where we can talk about queer folks from this country coming out in the open. A lot of teenagers right now coming out in the open and talking about their non-binary identities, their gayness, their queerness, their celebrating their queer identities. Um, and I think that has happened because of the access to education, because of the access to openness to
Right.
having these conversations by a lot of queer activists. They are the ones who started out these conversations to
Mm.
begin with.
Right.
Queer rights is not unique to India. It hasn't started just 10 years ago. It started out way back in the 80s when Ashok Rao Kavi, who's the founder of the Humsafar Trust, which is also situated in Bombay. He's the one he's like a pioneer of sorts who started out the struggle for all of us, and brought everybody together into one roof, and created a physical safe
Right.
space. And then these spaces have now transformed and come to moved on to safe spaces in or in online spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the work has been done by the queer rights activists, by equal rights activists in India, which is why we can have these conversations today so freely. They are the ones responsible for reading down Section 377, and
Right.
it's the openness of these teenagers who want to finally come out in the open and share their stories and not hide behind just living these lies anymore. And I do think a lot of this is happening because we've been able to put out a lot of strong important stories of queer people even in popular media.
Right.
So like for example, the other day we were having this conversation with uh, queer community members from all different generations,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them mentioned about this film called Prayers for Bobby, and which is it's an iconic queer film, which most of the folks, at least in India, have watched. And I'm like, these are the movies that have sort of led us to, in some ways, be able to share our stories with the world and be more open about it and be more fearless about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that structurally or socially we have come honestly a long way, because I think people who were homophobic even yesterday are still homophobic.
You're right.
I don't know. Somehow I feel like in India it goes way beyond just talking about it. I think Indians understand a lot of things through actions.
Mm-hmm.
So which is why it's going to take a long, long time. आप कितना भी समझा लो लोगों को ना, जो stubborn लोग हैं वो नहीं
हाँ.
बदलेंगे. And some people just choose to be ignorant,
Mm-hmm.
continue to be ignorant about certain things. And I'm like, okay, अब मैं क्या करूँ यार? क्या मैं
No.
माथा फोड़ दूँ क्या?
Right, but when you spoke about aspects like media, could you share of like how you would like to bring in a change, supposing in the new education policy that's going to be coming up soon? How can
Yeah.
you make education itself more inclusive? Is there, have you ever thought
What
about
is this
that?
new education policy that you're talking about? Is there going to be like a revamp of sorts which has come out from the government?
Yeah, so basically it's going to be more like the Western education system. So how we have 10 plus 2 plus 3, it's going to be changed to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 9 plus 3 plus 4, which is based like high school where you go abroad and then you go directly for your degree college, and also liberal arts wherein you can explore any subject that you want and then do a double major, like major minor, something like that. So we aren't totally aware about what exactly it is, and they said by the time they'll implement it, it'll be 2023. which means actually it'll be 2030, considering the rate at which it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I have always spoken about the need for in the inclusion of gender studies in our books. I started a campaign called Fitting Out way back in 2016 when I had won Mr. Gay India, and that was the time when I spoke about bringing in queer history and making it a part of the regular history, because it's extremely important to talk about some really empowering figures
Right.
from the past. There are really incredible people all around us in the community right now. There's an Abina or a Simran. They have some very, very empowering stories where they've faced a lot of abuse in their lives, and now they've come out. They've won over these trials and tribulations in their life,
Mm-hmm.
and they're such just figures of they've come out victorious. And it's
Right.
very important to share these stories of victory and how you can change the narrative. And just because certain things, something happens to be popular, does not mean that it is the only right thing to do. A lot of things that are right. For example, queer rights. Um, Unfortunately, we still are not at a space where queer rights is considered as the most important thing to be
Right.
spoken about,
As a
and that needs to
priority.
change.
Right. Right.
Exactly,
Right.
and that needs to change. It'll happen, it'll happen one step at a time. I think there's still just so much work that needs to be done, to be very honest. But
Right.
I think it's important to talk about, gender identities, expression, gender spectrum. Uh, a very simple way of talking about this is to the gender-bread person, and you just start talking about you start having these conversations with everyone, because there are going to be, like, everywhere you go, there are going to be queer people, there are going to be queer femme individuals, there
Mm-hmm.
are going to be trans folks, there are going to be non-binary
Right.
folks, and the more we talk about it, the more they will be empowered to come out in the open and share their stories. And
Right.
I mean, we have seen this already. I mean, we don't even have to go too far away. Things have started changing in a UK or the US. The other day, I was speaking to a friend of mine from London, and he was like, in London, literally, like every 5 minutes you go walk through the street, you will find 10 gay men. So, which means that obviously that like the
Right.
more we speak about this freely and not hide away from it. I don't think it's important. It's good to hide or run away from conversations around sex or sexuality. The more we have conversations around these, the more we will be able to move into a more inclusive world.
Understood. Got it. So would you say that when you came out, maybe your parents like tried to tell you that, okay, no, this is like you're thinking wrong, or this is not the way it should be, and tried to mold you in a different way compared to what you were, or they were accepting?
They were not accepting. They were, in fact, rather. I still remember, like, my mother crying for months altogether. And my father was very shocked as well. He didn't want me to talk about my sexuality on the open with anybody at all. They didn't think it was the right thing to do. So yeah, I think I had a very difficult journey with coming out to my parents and letting them understand what it is all about. Um, but in fact, my in some ways my relationship with them has sort of scarred as well a little because of, excuse me, because of the kind of conversations we were having back then. Because sometimes I felt like my parents were saying things that were so sort of mean or
Mm-hmm.
just not the right thing to say to
Right.
your kids, or just politically incorrect. And I would feel so bad about it. I would feel like, यार मेरे पेरेंट्स ऐसी बातें कैसे कर सकते हैं, but that was the reality, unfortunately, and I had to deal with it. And I'm glad that I didn't sort of run away from my parents as well. I gave myself
Right.
some time. I realized that time is the biggest healer. I can't keep having conversations with them because they will not understand it. Even today, my parents don't sometimes don't understand it. My mother does it sometimes, doesn't like my makeup. Sometimes she likes
Okay.
it, sometimes she doesn't like it. So um, it's like
Right.
she's still growing and she's still evolving, and it's like it's been 9 years since I came out to her, but
Right.
I think 7 years, actually 7 years
Hmm.
since I came out to her, but still she finds it so difficult to sort of come to terms with it. So I understood that I should just live my life and let her be.
Mm-hmm.
She will figure it out. She'll get used to it.
But when you say come to terms with it, but they are proud of you because we read up about you, and you're the first Indian recipient to win the Troy Perry Award, which is really good. And for all the viewers and listeners, the Troy Perry Award is one that honors the LGBTQIA plus community for their selfless service and their social and spiritual activism. So I mean, that's great. So when you received that award, what was their reaction?
I have received a lot of awards,
Yeah,
which
I'm gonna
and
go
my
one after the
parents
other.
and my parents don't give a fuck about any of them. My
Are you
parents are
kidding?
very, yeah, I mean they're very distant and they're very I mean what I know that they're very proud of it. I mean it's not like they just like throw it away all in the dustbin. But I mean they right now I have won so many awards that they're just like हाँ ठीक है आ रहा होगा कुछ कभी न्यूज़पेपर में भी कोई आर्टिकल आ जाता है and then my mommy's friends will write to her and she'd be like हमने देखा
Yeah.
my nickname is Annu and they'd be like अन्नू की फोटो देखी हमने newspaper में and then they will send out these pictures to mother and
Mhm.
she will look at it. The other day for the first time my father came to me and he was like अच्छा हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स में फोटो है ये कहाँ है बताना जरा क्या आया है किसके बारे में आया है. So I think this probably like secretly read about it and
Secretly, deep down inside, they are very proud and like,
they
yeah,
admire it and they are very happy
yes,
about it. And
yes,
because I sometimes in fact the other day we were having this lunch like a little gathering of sorts and my father was showing off my TEDx video to one of his colleagues and he was like he's done TEDx videos and all of that and for the
right.
first time I felt like oh god my father actually
Wow,
talks about the work that I do because I used to for the longest time think that they don't give a fuck about anything at all, but they certainly don't show it to me. Like they don't show their
hard
excitement to
face,
me at
like
all.
we
They're
don't
very poker
like,
face.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. They're like, ha, theek hai,
Uh,
great, good, very good, great. So I mean, this award I won in LA, and I was invited right after that. I was invited to Harvard, so I went all the way to Boston for a
wow,
panel
okay,
discussion and I still remember that particular year I went to like 8 countries and I had like a little mini world tour of sorts and I came back and these were things that I did had done out of the by the virtue of just my hard work and
right.
me being celebrated for the work that I do and came back and they were like ha ठीक है sir." So I mean they don't show off their excitement at all to me so I don't know.
No,
Maybe they
no.
are happy about it.
But the way you're speaking, it's clearly evident that they do they do.
Yeah, they secretly admire it. They're like my secret admirers, never in front
We
of
won't
me.
show it, but we are.
Yeah. Like any Indian parents for that matter. यार
Right.
कौन सा
I
Indian
mean,
parent?
I
India में
wouldn't,
most
yeah.
parents, I mean, आप नोबेल प्राइज भी जीत के आ जाओ ना आप उनके लिए कुछ ना कुछ वो निकाल देंगे कि अच्छा नोबेल प्राइज जीत के आए दूसरी बार कब जीतोगे एक ही बार जीत के आ गए इवन द वन टाइम इवन व्हेन आई वन मिस्टेक इन देयर लाइक माय मदर वाज लाइक हाँ यू जस्ट वन इट बिकॉज़ इट वाज जस्ट अबाउट गेम I, and I was like what are you saying like I literally just like bet 236 other men from all around the country to win this title. I'm going to represent my country
Right.
in Malta. I'm the youngest winner of the pageant. And there are all these newspaper articles about me. मतलब पूरे Odia news media had plastered me all over their news channels. So my everybody in my village also, मैं छोटे से गांव में ओडिशा में भी everybody got to know about it. And then also my parents were like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, when did you decide to go for Mr. Gay World India?
Yes. So, like I said, I think way back in 2012, I came across an article in Delhi Times about Mr. Gay World. And Andrew Sturlitz, who had won Mr. Gay World way back in 2012, he was from New Zealand. And I went on the internet, and back then internet existed as meme. YouTube exist करता था, तो मैं YouTube पे गया और मैंने YouTube पे टाइप किया सर्च इंजन में and I looked up for Andrews' video and there was a really nice interview of his and I really liked and admired his honesty for the cause. He's a sheriff and he spoke about how he had been working towards queer rights and equal rights for since when he was like in his 20s And when I read about all of this, I was like, I need to become a part of this organization. So I read up on, the prerequisites, went on the Mr. K World website and everything, and then I realized that I have to be at least 19 to be able to participate in this competition.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that I would, maybe go and participate in this competition when I'm 25 years of age, which is basically now.
Now.
I'm so glad I did not wait till I was 25, because Mystic India did not happen this year only because
Right.
of this COVID
COVID.
scare. And last year, the Mr. Gay World was, postponed because of the COVID situation. So yeah, I mean, I'm very, very happy, very, very glad that I don't have to go through this.
I
That
know.
I decided to participate much earlier. And yeah, I think there was a lot of back then. There was also a lot of not a lot of conversation around being gay in India at all. In fact, there was a lot of misinformation in popular news and media, outlets. I still remember watching some television shows that just फालतू की बातें करते थे around trans identities. They would be like, this person has become trans because इसकी माँ ने इसके साथ कुछ गलत किया है, इसके पापा ने कुछ गलत किया है, परवरिश में कोई गलती रह गई
Misinformation,
है.
right? And
Complete,
did
blatant.
they like give some cures for, like, supposing your kid comes out to you and then you're like, okay, go do this, you'll get fine, like you'll become normal. Was there something like that?
Well, therapies, sorry, corrective therapies and corrective rape for that matter as well is massive in India. In case you don't know about it, corrective rape is extremely, like, such a horrifying thing in India. There's a film called Satyavati which is also made around this situation where sometimes your own parents rape you to correct you of homosexuality or of queerness or being queer. So it's an ongoing thing still in India, which is horrifying and horrible. And I really hope these things change in the
My
coming years.
God.
But even these counselors sometimes used to have these, I don't know, which electrocute karte the and all of those therapies that they had to fix your queer inclination.
Right.
And um, there were a lot of course, Ramdev had come back then, and he had spoken about how he can cure homosexuality in queer folks. And I was like, what is this bullshit? I
Yeah,
mean, that we're talking about, and people are consuming also this information. What a stupid country we are, that we just believe in whatever we've been told
exactly.
on the internet. And that's what has happened right now as well. Misinformation is massive in India. WhatsApp यूनिवर्सिटी जिंदाबाद हमारे देश में. पर पता नहीं कब सीखेंगे लोग कि WhatsApp पे जो आता है वो बकवास आता है, उसको चेक करना पड़ता है
Really.
आपको.
100% agree.
Whatever they see on Facebook, they'll just believe it. Whatever they see on Instagram, they will just believe it. और जो भी टीवी पे दिखा देंगे, न्यूज चैनल वाले वैसे भी बिक
Mm,
गए हैं हमारे देश में. लोग गोदी
exactly.
मीडिया सब सब
And
बिलीव कर लेंगे. So
the way
obviously,
they project the information is so extra. Like, like especially news reporters and all. It's just
oh
crazy. It's
God.
so sad to see media being showcased in such a way.
Media is the fourth pillar of third fourth pillar of democracy, one of the pillars, let's just put it that way,
Right.
one of the pillars of
Right.
democracy. And it's become like a showbiz. It's literally become
Yeah.
like a buffoonery.
Huh.
And people are watching it, and people are believing it. Republic Bharat dikhte rehte hain. I'm like,
Hmm.
what is wrong with you all? Why are we watching Arnab's फालतू content? Like, ठीक है, आपको देखना भी हो तो देखो. लोग तो देखते हैं ना, रोडीज तो देखते ही हैं लोग, स्प्लिट्स वाला भी देखेंगे ही लोग. But we don't believe in what we're just watching on that show. It's entertainment. You watch it, you forget
Right.
it. But people will watch Arnab's show, and then people will believe whatever he's showing them.
Believe. Yeah. 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 It's like
It's a bigger
blind
problem.
faith. Yeah. Which is becoming a very
क्या
big
बताऊं
problem.
मैं, मतलब too much. I mean, I have so many opinions on this, but we are digressing from the topic of
Right, right. So coming
misinformation.
back to Mr. Gay World India, when you won that, I want to know, obviously, like on winning it, I'm not going to ask that typical question. How did you feel on winning
कैसा
this?
लगा आपको?
Nahi, nahi, I know you felt great,
Did you
but
go?
but I want to know, how was it to be in the competition? Because ideal standards of being beautiful or being handsome is fair, tall, and like, did you face any racism or did you feel left out? How was it when you were preparing for the competition?
So, yes, there was a fair amount of discrimination against me. I wouldn't say racism, but I would say colorism. I think,
Mm-hmm.
fair skin is still considered as the ideal standard of beauty here in India. A certain kind of body is considered a certain kind of, a certain level, minimum, इतना तो होना चाहिए ताकि आप हमें सुंदर लगो. All of that conversation, it still happens here in India. क्या करें हम? Help नहीं कर सकते उसको. But I mean, we can help it by changing this conversation around, standards of beauty. But पता नहीं कब होगा वो. हम try तो कर रहे हैं, कोशिश तो कब
Right.
से कर ही रहे हैं, but कुछ हो नहीं रहा है. It's just everything is just moving too slow. I mean, I wouldn't say कि हो नहीं रहा है, but I still
Yeah.
feel that everything is just happening. It's just so slow, such a slow rate that
Slow
it's
pace.
very very
Yeah.
disappointing. Yeah, slow pace. Yes, and I had, the moment I won Mr. India, there was on the back then Facebook was a bigger, phenomenon. So I remember just people going on the internet on Facebook and being like, how can this boy, represent India? He's so skinny, he's so black, he's so ugly. Why couldn't India choose a better representative for, the country to be sent out for Mr. Gay World? So it was rather sad. It was very difficult, but
Mm-hmm.
I sort of didn't, pay any heed. I mean, क्या करें यार? I mean, all kinds of opinions people are going to have. I had a responsibility. I had so much work to do. So I didn't
Right.
have the time to sort of waste my time on the internet going and figuring out कि यार लोग क्या कह रहे हैं मेरे बारे
Huh.
में. मतलब anyway, people.
Exactly.
And I grew up being bullied, यार. I mean, I grew up being heavily mocked at, heavily bullied all throughout my school life. So I was used to bullying, so I didn't care. I mean,
I
you
mean,
just move on. You
I did have a question regarding this that okay, you're out on Instagram right now and you have this fan following and these people that support you, but there's always a flip side of social media, right? There are people who constantly throw hate, like endlessly, no matter, like they won't know what your work is about and, like, kind of troll you or whatever. So does that affect you or your work? Does it have a toll on you?
No, not at all. I mean, sometimes, in fact, rather, I take inspiration from even from the negativity. In fact, way back when I was being bullied for my skin color and I was being told that I'm ugly and all of that. I wrote an article about it. It's called "Ugly Enough to Be Mr. Gay India," and
Ooh.
that article became viral on the internet.
Right.
And I remember an international news channel also picked it up and they posted it for
Wow.
Pink News. They posted about it that Mr. India faced all of these allegations and he
I
wrote
know.
about it and
Right.
and I received a lot of love out of it. People wrote back to me. They were like, we really like the work that you
Mm-hmm.
do. And we stand by you, and it's so unfortunate the kind of hate that is going on around. But
Right.
we really believe in you, and I was very happy that I at least had a certain amount of support from community
Mm-hmm.
members. Uh, but even today, in fact, someone commented on my video. आप
I
क्या लड़कियों की तरह बातें करते हो? So weird and all
I
of that.
I've seen like a few stories where you've highlighted the comments and, like, you've kept it. That's why
Yeah,
I wanted to
I just
ask that.
posted.
Yeah, I just saw it
Yeah.
like before this interview. So I was just like,
I just want people to know that there is femphobia, there is homophobia. क्योंकि अब हम जानेंगे नहीं जब तक ये प्रॉब्लम है, तो
hmm,
जब तक हम एक्नॉलेज नहीं करेंगे कि ये प्रॉब्लम है, तो हम उसका सॉल्यूशन कैसे निकालें? तो पहले तो आप ये जानिए कि प्रॉब्लम है.
hmm,
There is a reason why we're celebrating, Pride. And there is a reason why I'm talking about this because I
right.
I don't feel equal. I don't feel like I'm represented the
Mm-hmm.
right way. So it's very important for me to talk about this. So I talk about it, go out in the open, and I share my videos, and I, tell
Mm,
people that this is what has happened, or I will just post a simple, comment because in fact I receive a lot of rape threats as well. Uh, you go on with my TEDx video, someone accused me of being a pedophile and said that my parents have done a horrible job at bringing me up, which is why I've turned out this way. Just baseless rumors. Like इसका कुछ
I know.
context ही नहीं है. But
I don't
just
know
बस
what to
डाल दिया
say.
है.
I'm just like,
Sometimes I feel यार मतलब मैं कोई कचड़े का डिब्बा तो नहीं हूँ कि आप कुछ भी बोल के चले जाओ मेरे सामने. But और शायद मैं if I had not been gay, if I had not been femme, then I would not have gone through all this hate, right? But I didn't even choose this life. this is how I was born. This is how
Right.
I've always been. But I mean, a major part of my life has just been, struggling to make ends meet and just struggling to, um, you know, bring forth a more empowered representation of
Right.
me out in the world. So sometimes I feel bad about it. Because there are days when I feel really low and I feel like, yaar, कितना लड़ूं मैं यार कितना how much do you want me to just go out in the open and be an activist and speak about it? Sometimes I also want
There
to
is
just
a
chill, watch.
saturation point, right? There is.
Yeah, I want to also watch Netflix and chill, but I don't have, I can't afford to do that, because I have to continue to put forth my views and my story out in the open. I need to let people know that this is what the situation is, because I don't want another Anwesh to go through what I went through in the past. I
Good.
want another Anwesh to to have a better future in the past, in the
That's
future.
that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Okay, so now coming to a little lighter side, was there any experience that you remember from your competition in Malta during Mr. Gay World? Any embarrassing slash funny slash memorable, anything like that that happened?
So many, yaar. I was a complete mess when I went for Mr. Gay World. I'm like, now when I have to go back and do it, I would do it very differently, and I would, it would be so much nicer if I can go back again and relive those memories and relive those times. I remember, I didn't even have like a very nice phone, so I didn't even couldn't even get like really high quality pictures
Oh
from back
no.
in those days.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course, I got the nice pictures from friends and everything. But yeah, I still feel like, shit, थोड़ा अच्छा फोन होता तो अच्छा होता.
I did see like the different rounds, the sports round, the ramp walk, and all, and it seemed
Yeah,
like so much fun. I was just watching, and it was just like, wow.
it was quite an interesting journey. I think one story that I specifically remember, two stories actually, which was just prior to me getting to the pageant, because a lot of preparation actually goes, before you actually go for the pageant. When you go for the
Okay.
pageant, it's just fun and games. You're just going there to have a good time at the end of the day. Even if, of
Right.
course, you're going there to, represent your country, and
Hmm.
there's work to be done,
Right.
and it's very nerve-wracking because there are so many beautiful men around you. You get intimidated, and there are these different interview rounds, and you're just so nervous. You're like, yeah, I need to do well, सबसे अच्छा
Right.
करना है, अच्छा दिखना है, and all of that. And you have so little time sometimes to prepare. But I had a really, like, I had a gala time, and even with that pressure that we had, and there was a lot of confusion and ruckus, I still managed to have a lovely, lovely time when I was in Malta. And I'm so glad that we went to Europe, because Malta is extremely beautiful. It's like you get architectural orgasms when you go there. It's just so beautiful. And back in those days, Game of Thrones was a really big show, and they had shot, parts of Game of Thrones in Malta. The King's
Okay. Yeah.
Landing, it's
Right.
actually,
Oh wow. Yeah.
it's in
Okay.
Malta. So I was like, I am here to have a good time. मैं तो भाई मजे करने आया हूँ. मैं तो देखूंगा सब अच्छे से. And yeah, I mean, even during, I've been there with a lot of heart. So even if I was competing, I didn't feel like I was competing. I was there
Oh,
to just represent me, my best form.
right.
But the work, all that work that went was actually, months prior to the final
Hmm.
competition. And there was this one incident where there was a guy who was supposed to do the designer who was supposed to do my garment. He backed out just 2 weeks prior to the final pageant, and he
Oh
said that
no.
I can't create this outfit for him because I'm working on some project with Hrithik Roshan. I'm like, which professional
Yeah,
does this
ditches you in
to?
the end.
2 weeks prior to the competition, you're coming to me and you're telling me, and I don't have, यार मेरे पास नहीं है लाखों रुपए खर्च करने के लिए to on
Hmm.
another outfit.
Right.
I mean, this is all that I had, and now I don't even have the time to prepare another costume. So
Hmm.
in very little time, finally, I managed to put together another outfit. A friend of mine, Sarthak Kathuria, he helped me, uh, and with another designer, they worked together and they prepared the final costume for me. And then another very interesting thing that had happened was just 1 week prior to the competition, I met an accident and I lost two of these my incisors. So these two teeth that you see right here, they're not my real teeth. They're
Okay.
like caps. They're like fake
Okay.
teeth. So imagine just 1 week
Right.
like prior to the competition, and I remember like falling on that floor, hitting my jaw hit the floor, and I saw blood right in front of me, and I saw my teeth right in front of me, and I still have that picture, and I had lost my teeth, and I was like, but somehow we managed to get, my father came all the way from, so my parents were staying in Haryana and I was staying in Delhi, so they came all the
Okay.
way, traveled 3 hours journey, they covered, came to my college, picked me up, and they were like, chalo hamare saath. And they fixed my, they finally got me to a dentist, and he did a
Mhm.
really good job. Within 1 week he fixed everything, and I
Lovely.
finally, together went
Yeah.
for Mr. Gay World.
Wow. So it seems like a very exciting part of your life. Like, good you went at that time only.
I'm very happy. Oh my God, so happy I did all of that jazz back then. Abhi I can
Right.
relax and do my job happily.
Right.
Yeah,
Who is your role model from the LGBTQIA plus community, and what have you learned?
yeah. Um, there are so many people who I really look up to be very honest. And I think there is something or the other that I like in everybody who I look up to. I don't. I'm not, crazy enough to sort of, just look at one person and be like, मुझे तो इन्हीं के जैसा बनना है, बस इन्हीं के जैसा. But I rather pick up traits from different personalities. I think, especially in the long run, I feel like I've realized that, sometimes, the way you imagine certain people to be, they're not, entirely
Mm,
that way. So
right.
it's good to not sort of look at just one person and be like, मुझे तो इन्हीं के जैसा बनना है, but it's
Mm-hmm.
good to sort of take the good traits from everyone. So I think one person who I would definitely like to mention here is Freddie Mercury. I watched his documentary, in my early days of coming out, and I was so inspired by his journey, by his just eagerness to just in because he had completely shed away all his inhibitions, and he was
Right.
very uninhibited. He wasn't scared to share his vulnerability with the
Mm-hmm.
world. He was extremely talented, of course, as we all know, and created some of the greatest music that exists in today's time still.
Right.
And I love him. I mean, I really I wish he was still alive. I would have happily
I
married
know.
him, but like I'm obsessed with him in some ways, and I really love. I
Right.
admire his willingness to just not be scared of silly
Right.
questions, to not be scared of sharing his queer identity with the world. Even within his interviews, you just see that he's just so chill, and he's just talking about yeah, whatever, all that happened, this happened, that happened,
Hmm.
and I really like that about him. So yeah, I think Freddie Mercury is one person who I really really look up to. I really like him, and someday hopefully I will get to meet him.
So, since you spoke about silly questions, I just had a quick question. What are those questions that you are tired of answering, or statements that you're tired of hearing?
One question I would definitely like to point out is the one that I'm always asked: Why do you talk like a girl? And I'm just like fed up of answering this question. I'm like, maybe because I am a woman. I just say that now.
Wow, that's a good comeback. That's good.
I
That's
mean, because I mean, I am clearly a diva, as you can all see. I mean, through this entire podcast
right.
that we've had, total diva, total queen. So obviously, why should I not? Why should I
Why should
not
you
be a
not?
diva?
Exactly. There's no reason for you to not give
Not
that
be a
answer.
diva.
For not to give that answer. Okay, that's
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
And the last question for today is, what is your advice or your message to anyone who's struggling with their identity, who's maybe wanting to come out to their parents?
For me, the idea that truly sort of changed, my life was realizing that I'm so much more than being gay, and there is so much hope that is there out there in the world waiting for me. That
Right.
my life will become better if I just hold on to that, grab onto that little ray of sunshine,
Mm-hmm.
and just persevere through whatever difficulties I've come across in my life.
Right.
And I continue to live by that. I continue to wake up every morning and believe that my life is going to get better tomorrow if I work hard and I
Wow.
work the right way towards whatever dreams and aspirations I have in life. And I have seen my life change in the last just 10 years completely. I was a little gay boy from Konya in a little village in Orissa. Nobody knew about me. I was an engineering student in Delhi just a few years ago then. And everything changed for the better
Right.
once I came out and started speaking about my life and my story with the world. So that happened because I really admired the person that I am and the person that I can be if I truly believe in my potential. So just always, never be in denial of whatever's happening around you. Acknowledge your difficulties, acknowledge your successes, and just work towards being a better person every day, each day.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. Anvesh, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Asmeen.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so
being
much for
here.
having me.
Thank you for watching. It's Asmin, your host. If you like this, go ahead and give us a big thumbs up, subscribe, hit on the bell icon to get notified for future podcast episodes, and comment what you learned from this one. Share it with someone so we all learn, grow, and evolve together.